obviously, association is a very powerful thing, right? When the dog goes home and they're back in an environment they're super comfortable with, they have a lot of patterns there, they're with an owner that they have a very strong, positive or negative relationship, whatever it may be. Like, yes, it's going to be inevitable that at some point you'll probably run into a situation with a really reactive dog where you go to the park after your training and the dog goes right back to trying to act like they were before. Like, that will happen. I think the problem is when I see trainers where they're saying it's happening every single time they work with a dog. You know what I mean? When you're seeing it like such a pattern that it's like every dog you work with, you're consistently getting unhappy clients because the results aren't transferring over, or the dog reverting back to every single behavioral issue that they exhibited before going, back home or before coming to your training or any of that kind of stuff. If it is a really, really serious pattern that you're seeing, I think that's really where you need to start recalibrating what you're doing, because there shouldn't be that much conflict associated with the transition back home with every dog you're working with.
Yeah. And I mean more when it's like, especially when you're like surprised by it, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, point. Okay, like, and like when you're like, okay, like the dog was doing so good, I had no idea the owner was going to take this leash and it's going to react. Yeah. And then you're left with like, now how do you fix it? Right? Like, what do you do? It wasn't part of, so like for me, and that's like what you said, it's like, I go into my training program expecting that to happen. I expect when I give that leash back to the owner, the dog is going to do the shit it used to do, but I have a rundown of ways that they're going to fix it. Yeah. I know exactly what to do to fix or what to tell the owner to do. We've worked on these concepts and worked on these principles and stuff, right? But if you haven't done that, and if you don't have like maybe a plan B or like a further ideas for the owner to get through that, then you're going to be, you're going to leave them stranded. And that happens with so many trainers, especially here, where, it happens way too much here, I think, where it's like, we'll get calls from people that said, yeah, they went to X trainer and X class and, they just kept doing the same thing, saying, oh, turn the e-collar up. Oh, use your prong collar a little harder, etc. And it never actually, like, they never get to it. And then they just ghost the client, they're just, okay, I don't have any more answers for you. I don't actually know what to do. Right? Whereas if you know what to do right from the beginning, it can be easy to kind of prevent some of that stuff. Or if you're honest with the owner, like you said, like we talked about before, and you say like, yeah, there's going to be situations where the dog blows up, but you know how to control and correct it, get things back to a good place, and know how to prevent that from happening the next time, But if you're not prepared for that, then you're going to look like an idiot, and the owner's going to see that and they're going to know you're an idiot, Owners see that stuff. They know. They know when you.
They can tell when you're not confident.
Walk and the dog reacts.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're just saying, oh, well, just turn the e-collar up. Oh, turn it up again. Oh, yeah, just turn it up some more, kind of thing. That's like, they know when something's not working.
Yeah, it's tough, right? Like it really is. The problem is when you're not ready for it, right? And there's so many different examples. Like you mentioned, like the turning up the e-collar side of things, right? Like there's definitely situations where like dogs will go home and the problem is that they're trying to revert back to using a freaking level 5 to stop their dog from reacting. And the answer is turn up the e-collar higher, right? But when you're relying, so when you're not looking at all of the variables again of understanding how toxic owner's relationship is with their owner and all of the variables outside of the correction they're giving in the moment, that's really where I think the problem kind of lies with a lot of stuff. And it's funny you were saying like I kind of go into all of my send homes and stuff as well, and I try to get my trainers to like hope for the best, expect for the worst kind of thing, like, because at this point, like, you've trained a shit ton of dogs. I've trained a shit ton of dogs. Like, I used to try to guess all day, like, which dogs were going to, like, do what when they saw their owners again for the first time. And in the past, like, I was generally wrong a lot of the times. Like, the dogs that would go bananas when they saw their owners were the ones I thought were going to be cool as a cucumber and vice versa. So I just kind of, I always instruct owners, like, anything your dog tried to do before coming here for training, they are probably going to try to do it again, but we're going to have game plans on how to address those things, right? Exactly. It's to be expected. We'll get past it. I think the other big problem here too is too many trainers look at like the send home lesson and their first follow-up as like programs complete then at that point, which I think that's one of the biggest changes we made to our programs over the last, 3 years, whatever it is we really don't have a timeline on it at this point. I would say regularly the standard is I'll do about 6 hours of training with a client post board and train, but in many cases it teeters more towards 8 to 10 hours, I would say, and that could be broken up over, 2 months, or that could be broken up over 6 months or whatever it may be. But like, they got to get through the freaking hurdles that they get back home. Then they got to get through the honeymoon period of they think they're past everything and everything feels really good, but like it's actually just like their own freaking perception of like, oh, I spent all this money on training and I put in a little bit of work and things are better than they were before, but actually, I'm still not as on things and doing the things that I need to do to get the results. Then they got to make the adjustments they got to make. And like, that's not even an amount of sessions thing. That's just a time thing. The owners need to go through a couple months of working with the dog and see how this stuff fits into their life and make some mistakes and all of that before they really get to a place where they're stable. And if you don't have that built into your program, you're going to wind up with a lot of unhappy clients because they're going to go through that. And then 5 months later, when they inevitably have some problems and they need help with those, you're going to be like, yeah, give me more money, bro. And then they're going to be like, I just paid you $4,000 for this. What do you mean give me more money? Right? And that kind of goes back into just, I don't even know if it's expecting the worst and hoping for the best as much as it is just having, real expectations that you're setting on the client.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So we just started our like a graduate group class we just launched. So basically that's kind of our supplement for people that have been through a training program with us that want to do some further training but don't want to spend the price on like an individual private session, which can add up if you're doing multiple. So we're doing a graduate group class, which is just, it's a cheaper version of basically our sessions where they come in. There's six people that have already been through a training program. So they know the fundamentals. We don't need to get into like the really basic stuff of like how to use the equalizer. They should all know this stuff. And we're able to just kind of dive right into some cool setups and stuff that they can't otherwise do in any other situation, whether it's like setting up pass-bys with new dogs because they haven't really met each other, setting up obedience training sessions inside of our facility and stuff like that. So it really gives the owners a safe, comfortable environment to practice this stuff. And again, do setups and stuff. Like we just had our first one yesterday. So we kind of covered like just learning where all the dogs and stuff were at, where each owner was at with their training. A few of the dogs were still a little bit reactive and stuff, so we were able to kind of work on that. But it's cool because it's like, you could take the dog to Lowe's and it's reactive, but maybe it's maybe not one of those situations where you can comfortably use the correction necessary to stop that behavior. And so we can bring the dog into an environment like this and really do what we need to do to get stuff under control. And then they can expand on that from there, And so we can put these dogs into these situations, put these owners into these situations. In a group environment, and it's just no judgment. Nobody's going to get upset for them them for correcting their dog. Nobody's going to get upset for them for walking their dog around close to other dogs and stuff like that. And then we can also work on just building, making it fun for the dogs too, and making sure it's a good environment for the dogs to be around all the people and the other dogs and stuff.